Hi guys, welcome to Coding Filler. This is the part 2 of our API development series. In part 1, we look at the project structure, and then we also look at we look at the project structure, and we also register the service dependency, and then we also set up the identity server to make use of the identity user context, right? And we went ahead to create our account service, and inside our account service we have a method create account async. Inside this method we have we wrote some logic to create an account to able to user to sign up into our application. And we went ahead to look at what we have in the database. This is what we currently have. All right, we have a table called ASP.NET rows, ASP.NET row claims we currently have in the database, right? We have all these 7 tables in the database, and then this is our user table, ASP.NET users. So in this part 2, we'll be looking at changing all these default name to our desired name or our preferred name, and then also look at creating a login method and then implement the logic that will enable a user to be able to sign into our application. And if possible, we'll go ahead to implement JWT token, but let's see how it goes, right? So when you run a migration using identity server, by default all these 7 tables will be created, right? So let's get started by implementing this let's get started by changing all these 7 tables to our preferred name. For example, the default name is ASP.NET. Each of these tables always has ASP.NET attached to it. So let's see how we can take out this and then make use of it. Configure it to our preferred or desired name, right? So go to the DB context class, and then let's configure our application to our default preferred name, right? To our preferred name instead of the default ASP.NET users, right? So to customize the user table, right, what you do is to grab your model builder.entity, then you pass the user entity class into it, right? Then so just go up to pass the user entity to it, and then configure it like this, right? All right, so u.toTable, then so you pass the table name. So in this case, I'll just do users, right? Then all right, so simple as that. We are done with configuring for users table. Then let's move to rows table, right? So do the same thing. I'll just copy this, start copying this, or try to copy this and then paste. So what I'll do here is to change the name to users rows, right? So having done that, so you change the entity name, right? The entity here is going to be identity user row, right? Identity user row, right? Identity user row, and then you pass a string to it, right? That's fixed the error. Then having done that, the next one here is row itself. So let's we copy the user earlier, so I'll just paste it again. Then what I'll do here is to pass the row, class. Right, so identity row, all right, identity row. Then so the name of the table will be rows. Right, having done that, I move on to the next one. The next one will be this. Let me copy the identity user row. So the next one will be identity user login. Then identity user login. Right, so I will change this to user logins. All right, having done that, I'll move to the next one. So the next one will be identity user token. Right, I'll copy this, then just paste. Right, identity user token, identity beg your pardon, identity user token. All right, identity user token. Then you change this to user tokens. All right, so the next one will be identity row claim. Right, so just copy this, then you do the same thing, you paste it, then change this to identity row claims. Right, identity row claim. Right, change this to user, or just give it row claims. Right, so let's check. It should be all together should be 7. We have user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Some are we mixing up something? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's confirm what we have in the database. Right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have row claims, rows, user claims, user logins, user rows, and then the user table itself, and then user tokens. So let's compare. Okay, I think the one we are missing is user claims, right? That's identity user claim, row claims. Okay, identity user claim. Right, let's copy this, then duplicate it. Right, paste it, and then this is identity user claims, identity user claims. Then this is going to be user claims. Right, we have done with that. So the next thing is to run a migration to make all these changes take effect. Right, so let's go to our package manager console to run a migration. All right, so add migration. Right, to give it a name, add migration. Right, I'm going to give it default table name, right? That's called change. So that's the name of the migration, right? Then press enter. Right, having done that, yeah, the application is build succeeded. Then yeah, we have the class generated, right? So look at it. So it's changing this one from this to that, right? So these are the previous default name. Then it's changing it. Look at it. ASP.NET user is changing it to users. ASP.NET user role is changing it to user role. So by the time we apply migration, let's update the update. Let's run this command to apply the migration. Update database. All right. Oh yes, successful, right? So let's go back to our database to confirm this change, right? So let's just refresh this. So take note of the previous name, this, and then let's just refresh the database. Then look at it. All the name have changed. So this is how you can change the default name, default identity tables or identity server's name in your application. So we can now go ahead to continue with building our API, and then so see what we can achieve in this tutorial. So let's go back to Visual Studio. Then let's go and create a method to sign in into our application, right? So to this, so we already have a method for create an account. So what we will be looking at now is to create a method to sign in into application. Then let's start by public async, right? Task don't forget passing your service response class response. Then so because we don't know the return type yet, so pass dynamic. So this might change in the future when we decide what we want to be returning to the user. Let's say this is login async, right? So we okay, let's just default it to this guy first. Then beg your pardon, this public is incorrect, so public this, right? Public right, then login async. Okay, one angle bracket is missing here, right? Then you have this method, then bring in your try catch. So let's have our service response equals to new service response, new service response, pass dynamic, and then we return the service response. All right. So having done that, so we have want to use username and password to log into the application, but I'm not going to declare it like this. Let's create a record for it. All right. So we want to collect the username and password, and in case we are using the we'll be using the email and password to log in into our application. So let's right click and create a detail for it. It's going to be a record. Then right click add and then select class. Then give it the name. Right. Login DTO. Alright. So we have our login DTO. Then change these guys to record. Alright. Take out this curly bracket. Right. Change it to this. Then we're going to have string email, then string password. All right, so this is what we need. Then copy this, grab this, take it to account service, place it with this. All right, then payload, place as payload. So before we can even log in, we want to check if that user exists, right? Let's declare a variable for is user exist equals to service manager, sorry, I beg your pardon, user manager dot find by email. All right, so find by email, move this to inside your try catch block. Right, so find by email, take this out. Now we'll check if this guy, right, before we even, if this guy is null, it means that that user does not exist. So what are you going to do? Let's return a message, service response dot message. So in this case, you don't have to be detailed or to tell the user that that user does not exist. So because we are dealing with a login system, so if you tell the user that it does not exist, you are giving a clear information about what is happening in your application. In this case, you just do invalid or invalid username, invalid email, or password, right? So should in case it's an attacker, let the attacker be dealing with that. So you don't have to refill the exact information that that email or that user does not exist, because once you do that, you are giving your you are giving a clear information that that user does not exist. Then you have simplified the attacking process for the attacker, right? So when you're dealing with login system, you don't have to do that. So just return invalid email or password, or whatever the case may be. Yours might be invalid username or password, so whatever your case may be. So that's how to do it, right? Then status goes, right? Then in this case, I'll be returning, right, bad request http status code dot bad request. Then don't forget that you have to unbox it. So here, this is what it means to unbox, to convert the data type to another, right? All right, so then return the service response. Okay, so I think that's that. Then if the user exists, right, so we need to be able to check for the username and password, for the user email and password, if they match, right? Let's see how we can do that. All right, so the next thing here to do is to bring in our sign-in manager. don't forget we are using identity to manage our user. So what I will do here is to bring this guy, right, private, all right, read only. Then we have a sign-in manager, exactly. Sign-in manager equals to this. Then pass this to your constructor, right? This to your constructor. All right. Having done that, you can now, so sign-in manager is now available for use. So if user is found, then it's going to be sign-in manager dot password sign-in, right? Password sign-in. So this method is going to compare the user email against the provided password, right? Which is going to be payload dot email, right? So let me over on this, right? Let me over on this method. So this method is taking the user itself, right? It's taking the user itself, then the password, then it's checking if it should persist the user, and then enable lockout. Okay. So let's await this service. Await, then so let's pass is persists just by true, set it to true, set this to true, comma true, set this to true, then set this also to true. That's it, should enable lockout, right? All right, so let's assign this to a variable for sign in response or results. So it depends on what you prefer, right? All right, having done that, so let's check. Sign in. Okay. All right, that's correct. So having done that, so we want to check if that user has been locked. Don't forget, let's go back to our service collection, right? So don't forget we enable lockouts after several trials, right? Okay, this is it. After failed attempts of 5 times, we can reduce to 3 times. So we enable to lock out the user automatically for 15 minutes, right? So let's go back to our service class. This is where we are going to make use of it, because we have enabled it after you have user have tried to sign in like 3 or 5 times, depending on what you are building, depending on what you set rather. So this is where you are going to check it, see if that particular user have been locked out or not. If sign in response, beg your pardon, sign in response dot is locked out. All right, so if user is locked out, so you need to return a particular response, right? Now at this point, you also need to set up for how long you want to lock the user, right? So because from your configuration you set it to 15 minutes, but at the same time you might want to like unlock the user after that particular 15 minutes, right? So let's just do await, beg your pardon, await, and sign in manager dot set lock end, set sign-in manager dot set lock end. Okay, the method is not here. All right, so let's check user manager dot set lock. All right, so see, so it's the set lock should end when, right? Then you pass the user is user assist, pass the user, then comma date offset date offset does now dot hard does now dot hard. All right, then date offset, spelling is incorrect, date time offset, right, beg your pardon, date time offset. All right, so date time offset dot hard date time offset dot hard, so it's going to be time span dot okay, we can do days or minute dot hours. Let's do dot minute, these seconds from minute. All right, then for how many minutes? 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depends on what you are building. All right, okay, close this. All right, what is this expecting? Yeah, user assist, yeah, which is coming from here. So why the error? All right, so let's fix this. Okay, we did not await this. All right, so I beg your pardon, await. Reason why we have error there. All right, so having done that, the next thing is to service response dot success the starter course. Okay, the starter course equals to, right, in this case, so we can return forbidden, or depends on what response code that's match or that's matches whatever you are building. So then let's do it again. Service response dot message, right? So equals to this, or you can say you have been locked out, right? You have been locked out. So what should we return again? We have returned the status codes, and then this guy, all right, it's successful, but fortunately you have been locked out. Then return the service response itself. All right, having done that, so let's move, let's check, let's do another check. All right, so now we have if sign in response dot not allowed. Maybe for some reason you block the user from accessing your system. You can also check this Right. You can also use not allow to block the user. I will just go ahead to copy this, and then paste this, return the message. So what respond are we returning? We can also return forbidding you. Then the message might not be a different message. You are not allowed to access this application or whatever. You are not allowed to access this portal. All right. So having done that, so now let's check if the username and password match. Right. So just go ahead to copy this, then paste it. So it's going to be that it's successful. Dot succeeded. Yeah, not is successful. Dot succeeded. But in this case, if that password does not match, right, it's going to be is not succeeded. Right. If it is not succeeded, then just you return the same message, invalid username and password. All right. So just grab this, return this, and paste it here. Invalid username or password. And this also depends on how you want to arrange it. Now you might want to check for login success first. If the username, if the email and the password matches. So before you do all this, maybe before you check either user is locked out or is not allowed. So it depends on how you want to do it. So just go ahead and arrange it the way you want it. Right. Having done that, so but if it does not meet any of these requirements, right? So this is where we are supposed to do call our JWT token, but we haven't created that yet because login is successful, right? So let's see what we can return first, right? So let's just return service response. We are going to modify this later. Let's just copy this, then take out this return because we are already returning the response here. You have successfully login successful or something. Login successful. All right, then change this guy to okay. Then the status, survey response or status. So beg your pardon, the success equals to true. All right, so let's check or let's test our application. Before we do that, just copy this method, take it to your interface class, right? Then all right, so then we'll go to account controller, let's have this method defined here. Just copy this, right, to save our time. Copy this and then change this to login, change the method to log and then change this to login async. All right, and then change this to login DTO. All right, and then call the login method itself, then login async. All right, so I think we are done. So let's test it. Launch it. The application is building. So if there's any error, so will let us know. I think everything is good. We don't have any exception or error. All right. All right, our app is up and running. Okay, so let's test our login implementation. I will just input, copy this payload. I'll take it to my Postman because we'll be doing a lot of testing and I don't want to be inputting data every time. So I will just duplicate this create account method, and that's how to speed up your development phase. Right, let me copy this. We already have my email and password here. What I'll do here is to take out this, and then I have to take out this as well. Let me now remove this and then click on beautify. I have my email and password now. Then I'll change the method to login, the endpoint to login. So I can also rename this to login. Right, so save. So to test it, I'll put a breakpoint on this method and put a breakpoint. Put a breakpoint here. So test if it will actually hit that endpoint or that method or not. Then click on send. This. So let's check what port is running on port 4319. Copy the port. So I think this is not correct. So paste the port. Should have our application hitting the endpoint now. Right, we have it here. All right, so let's step over. Then the first thing you will do here is to check if that user exists. All right, let's check. Yeah, we have the user. Then step over is to confirm if the password match. Right, and then it will check if it has been locked out is false because the user is not locked out. Right, then check if the user has been restricted. The user is not restricted. Check. Then it check if this login is successful. Is true, right? The login is successful. If checking the login is not successful, in this case login is successful, which is true, then go ahead and fire. Yeah, we have login successful. All right, so let's add something else to this password to validate the unsuccessful login or unsuccessful login. Then I'll fire it again. Oh, sorry, it's here. I forgot the breakpoint is there. Then check the email exists, right? Fine. And then check it has been locked out. It doesn't lock out. It's allowed to check the system. Now check if sign-in response is succeeded, right? Check sign-in response in this case is false. It's not succeeded because that password does not match. All right, so having done that, let's input invalid email as well. Right, we have a bad request here. That's the response code we're returning. Then let's check for invalid email address. All right, it's checking. Right, so see invalid email or password as well. So all right, so this is how we can build our login system using identity server. All right, so in this part 2 we have covered how you can build a login system and then how you can change the default ASP.NET rules to your preferred name. All right, so in the next part or in the next tutorial, we'll be looking at creating a JWT token, how to secure our application with JWT token, and then how we can use it to manage the user, because when by the time if login is successful, we are supposed to generate JWT token and then return the JWT token to our client. And then we'll also be doing some error handling. So in the next tutorial, please stay tuned and look out for my next video. Please follow for more. Thank you.